I'm Carrie Adams, and you're listening to Carrie's Connoisseurs, coming to you from Solid Gold Podcasts. Here we talk to the movers and shakers, the drinkers, the dreamers, and all the people who make it happen in the liquor and luxury industries from around the world. Well, hello everybody, and welcome to Carrie's Connoisseurs. Today in the studio, I've got John Hooper. I nearly said John Hooper Sr. John Hooper Jr. with me. John, hi, how are you?
Carrie, very well, thanks. It's good to be here with you, and
thank you very much for making the time. It was sort of squeezed in, and it's happily, I think. Well, not so happily, because I love my podcasts, but I think it's my last podcast of the year, really. So we're going to make this a Christmas edition of podcast.
Fantastic. How's
the reason I wanted to speak to you, let me tell everybody that John, guide me if I'm blowing your trumpet too loudly, but John is, I think you're running Edward Snell & Co. at this stage of the game, or would your father kill me if you heard me saying that?
No, I'm definitely out of the Edward Snell picture.
I thought you were like the heir apparent.
No. My cousin Ian is the current chairman, and a lady by the name of Karen Vessels has taken over the managing directorship. First time.
How did the Hoopers succumb to that liberalism? How did you succumb to that feminist stuff and put a lady in power, John? How did that happen?
No, look, well, first of all, I won't say it wasn't my choice, but she definitely was the right person for the job. So
I know she's
from that perspective, it was fair and square, just like any appointment should be, really, at the end of the day. It should be based on merit, and she was the right person.
She was. So I'm just going to tell everybody that John is just like the rest of the Hoopers. He's incredibly retiring and modest and humble, but I think I'm correct in saying that Edward Snell and Company is the oldest or longest standing liquor company in the country. And I think you told me the other day that you're about to celebrate your 170th anniversary or something like that. Is that correct?
That is correct. Yeah, they all the employees, 300 plus, flew up to Johannesburg to celebrate 175 years of Edward Snell Company. Yes, the oldest and the largest family-owned liquor company in South Africa. So, a milestone, Carrie, for sure.
It's amazing. So, congratulations for that. And I think you must be what, fifth generation?
Fifth generation.
Fifth generation.
Yeah.
That is amazing. So Edward Snell was clearly a young boy who came out from England, I would imagine.
England, yes.
In 18 something or other. And he just became a trader, really, didn't he? Was it specifically alcohol in those days, or was he trading anything that happened with the ships that were coming past, backwards and forwards?
No, remarkably, he was on Edward Snell was on a ship from England through to Argentina, and that ship got blown off course and limped into Cape Town, and from there he then moved up the coast to Port Natal, where they started a import-export business, trading in all goods, and then my great-grandfather Vernon Edward Hooper then married Edward Snell's niece, and that's how the Hoopers became involved at Edward Snell Company.
It was quite a lucky marriage, that. Well, you always wish that your grandfather married somebody wealthy or clever or inordinately important, but you were just one of the lucky few. So she married him, and then?
And yes, I suppose then the rest is history to a degree. I mean, the Hoopers have been sort of in control of Edward Snell Company since then as a family, and over time it definitely evolved into a wine and obviously more sort of spirits business, which it is today. And trading in their own brands, brands such as First Watch whiskey, Russian Bear vodka, Stratton's gin, and then a number of international principal brands as well. You know, so it's turned out to be it's one of the biggest.
It's an amazing business. Just say it. Should we brag? Let's just brag. It's an amazing business, and your family has been inordinately additive to the South African liquor trade. It's really very, very special.
No,
so, in addition to that, your mother became a winemaker. How did that happen?
Yeah, so look, as time went on, we were, Edward Snell & Company was always based in Natal, you know, so it started in 1848 and sort of had always had its roots in KZN, and then over time, you know, just the head office moved down to Cape Town. At the time, though, I was farming myself in the Slanghoek Valley, you know, working as a farm manager on a fruit and wine farm, and my folks decided, instead of buying a house in Constantia or somewhere in Cape Town, bought a farm instead, you know, and 30-odd years ago.
Was it that recent? I didn't realize that it was that recent that Mom and Dad had moved from Durban to Cape Town.
Yeah, I know it is. It's a new thing, definitely from a generation perspective. You know, it's after generations of living in Natal and doing business out of Natal. You know, the whole family moved down here, including sort of cousins and everybody. So quite a move, but I mean, I think a worthwhile move and obviously a necessary move. Business was definitely more sort of centered around this part of the world. So is there not a single Hooper left in Natal? Oh, there are definitely some cousins living there, but look. In fact, now you say that, you know, I mean, all the male Hoopers have actually moved on to Cape Town. A couple of cousins, you know, sort of girls living in Durban.
You're making it sound like the Naidu family or something. All the cousins in Natal.
You know, it's still a lovely
okay,
part
so
of the world.
there's an even distribution of Naidus in Natal and the Cape. And are they all employed in East Snell & Company?
Yeah, so look, that was...
Now you're giggling and you can't stop. You can have some water or something if you want.
So, Carrie, yeah, so look, I mean, as it turned out, you know, we ended up, the folks ended up buying a farm, you know, and long story short is that, yeah, my mother started making wine, and at the time I had left Edward Snell & Company to then sort of go into a post-grad marketing diploma, which I did at Red and Yellow, and I ended up, planning to then go overseas, in fact, you know, to work for some of our principals overseas was part of the plan, with an idea to return to working at Edward Snell & Company in a marketing position. Anyway, life was full of twists and turns, and as it turned out, you know, I didn't end up going overseas because of the economic crash in 2008, 2009. And as a result, I ended up starting this wine business. Now, we had the farm already, and my mother was making wine, and some very good wine, I should say, you know. And the Mount Vernon label sort of is our sort of premium sort of top-end.
Is that what the farm is called, Mount Vernon?
It is, yes, 100%. You know, now all the Hoopers, the male Hoopers that is, have the name Vernon in the middle there somewhere. So my dad is Dave Vernon, I'm John Vernon, and my son is Harrison Vernon. So Vernon sort of is where the name sort of came about. And so my mother, sort of go back to that point, yes, my mother was making some good wines, and you know, it was basically sort of a process just developing over time, you know, and so here we are today. I mean, you know, Mount Vernon still remains our flagship range, and you know, we are proud of that fact as well.
Well, the reason I'm prodding and prying and carrying on about Mount Vernon is that's really why I phoned you in the first place, because I went down to Cape Town a few weeks ago to chair the judging panel for the Malbec challenge that Celia Gilloway runs for Celia's events. And, you know, Celia's run these competitions for many years. She does such a good job for the wine industry. And I help her wherever I can. In fact, we all do. Just because she's very meaningful and she's good for the industry. But she has tried to put these tastings, hasn't tried, she's done it successfully, put tastings together for sometimes unknown cultivars or smaller groups of producers, or anybody can enter Celia's competitions. It costs very little. She doesn't charge. I don't charge to judge. It's one of those things that we do out of love for the industry, really. And it was blind, and it was such a fun tasting. It was myself and the dreaded Norma Ratcliffe and the indomitable Christine Rudman.
Yes.
So it was a sort of like a set of steel magnolias, or what are those old ladies called, the Golden Girls? It was really fun, and it was just so nice to be tasting with dear old friends of mine. We've worked together in the industry for a long time, and it was just like slipping into a pair of comfy slippers. You know, Malbec is a difficult category in South Africa because there's not that many Malbecs around. And it's not a particularly gorgeous grape on its own. You have to be quite smart to make Malbec look smart on its own. It's fabulous in a Bordeaux blend, but it's not always so fabulous on its own. So it was quite a difficult tasting, and I think there were about 40-something entrants. And there were us three Golden Girls tasting, and we laughed a lot, but we did concentrate. And lo and behold, in a totally blind tasting, we came up with Mount Vernon. And it's not the first time that we've pulled Mount Vernon out of that lineup in the Malbec Challenge. So I just got excited because I love it when people that I really respect and love make a little stamp in the market. And I just think that your family have been such troopers in the liquor industry. And nobody even knows who the Hoopers are. You fly under the radar, you keep quiet, you're shy, you're retiring, you're gorgeous. Nobody ever jumps out and says, God, you know, ooh, shush, careful, chips, here come the Hoopers. Nobody's ever had to do that because you're just you're just a bunch of menschers, as they would say in Yiddish, I suppose. So Mount Vernon won the Malbec Challenge a few weeks ago. So I thought, I'm going to phone. I thought I was going to try and phone your father, actually, but I've given up phoning your father. I think he's away with the fairies and is he semi-retired or something? I don't know what David's doing.
Yeah, he's doing. I think he's earned his stripes. So he's out there enjoying. He's still very active, but he remains...
Is he making brandy and stuff? The last time I spoke to him, he was making brandy. Is he still doing that?
No, very much so. He's the chairman there of the Odemolen Distillery, and still championing sort of Cape Brandy.
Yes, of course. That's one of your products, isn't it? Odemolen.
That's right. Yes, 100%.
One of the best brandies in the country. It's gorgeous.
It is, yeah, and there's two other ones to go with it as well, Joseph Barry and Ladysmith. And there's something to be said about that, without distracting from the main point on the Malbec side. But, there's something to be said about brandy, I think, as a category. They've been championing a thing called Cape Brandy, trying to call it pot still brandy, a geographic location in the world, as sort of cognac is, I suppose.
Yes.
South African brandy, internationally ticks all the right boxes, wins all the international competitions. But
we make some of the best brandy in the world. I've always said it. We make absolutely delicious brandy.
I know it is, and it doesn't quite get the recognition it deserves, and. No. And I think long term, it is a good South African product, and I would say internationally, if I was going to be pushing a brand or a a category overseas, you know, I would be definitely going the brandy route. I think it's definitely got it's got a sort of a toehold on the cliff there. It's geographically unique. It's got a great story behind it, and it's got a great quality element to it as well. So from a marketing and sales perspective, you can really go out there and push something. And, you know, brandy, let's face it, I mean, you know, it's got character, it's got depth, it's got flavor, and it's also got mixability to it as well, you know. And you take
that's what I was going to say. You know, Winnie Bowman is also she's another one of the Golden Girls. There's Winnie, there's me, there's Norma, there's Christine, there's a couple of us. But Winnie, as you know, is Mrs. Brandy South Africa, and she and I can have huge fun with brandy. We love it. And South Africa is one of the few places on planet Earth where we mix our brandy with Coca-Cola or ginger ale or soda or ginger beer or whatever it is. You don't do that anywhere else in the world. So they have to be so smart, and they have to make something that's so refined and so beautiful, because you can only drink it, or you drink aguardente. There's different forms and fashions of it, as we know, around the world.
Sure.
The Portuguese make some, the French make some. But our brandy is so blooming delicious, we shouldn't even be mixing it with anything. We should be drinking it on the rocks.
Well, this is it, Carrie. You know, I mean, the whole Cape Brandy sort of drive is sort of really up at the sort of that malt whiskey type, you know, that whole malt whiskey sort of, you know, story really at the end of the day, where it's sort of, it's pot still, it's double distilled, you know, it's aged for a minimum of 3 years, you know, et cetera, you know, and, you know, when one looks at it...
That Oudemolin 100-year reserve is one of the nicest brandies. The KWV will shoot me for saying that on YouTube, but it is. Theirs is also nice, but yours is delicious. So I digress. Your father makes fabulous, or oversees the making of fabulous brandy, and I'm sure you'll do likewise going forward. The Malbec. So I don't think you can have lots and lots and lots of Malbec planted on that farm. Hey, am I right?
We don't. You're right. It's a good point. It's something that we need to sort of look at focusing on, because we definitely seem to be picking up a good trend here. In other words, you know, when one looks at sort of, you know, we won this competition a couple of years ago with the 2015 vintage, and here we are a couple of years later, and the 2021 vintage has again picked up the Malbec Challenge sort of barrel, really, not trophy, barrel, which was kindly sort of donated, or kindly offered as a donation as part of the winning prize.
Yes. It's quite a nice prezi that to get a barrel, don't you think?
Well, it is, you know, and if you think about it, you know, it's a barrel is expensive these days.
You can use a barrel. You can't use that stupid trophy. Well, and your house must be filled with silverware.
Yeah, look, we have a couple of trophies here and there, and but, you know, look, the thing is, a barrel goes a long way. A barrel costs a lot of money, anywhere from 12 to 15,000 rand. You know, and so it's a lovely prize to win, and and yeah, look, it forms an important part of the finished product. You know, so I think.
So
you know,
if we were to tell everybody what that Malbec tastes like, what would we tell them?
You know, if I could just take a step back there, Carrie, because, you know, as you say, Malbec is it's not the easiest sort of varietal to work with, and if one sort of looks at, you know, there are only, like I said, maybe 40 producers who are really...
Yeah, there's not a lot.
Yeah, Malbec, yeah, one of the old sort of French varietals, resurrected itself in Argentina. The Argentinians have made a name for themselves. And obviously this varietal works well in the southern hemisphere. You know, it's got it works well with sunshine, and here where we are, we've got a sort of, you know, a small microclimate in this Klapmuts area, which is conducive to good red grape growing. You know, and
are you on a mountain?
we're off the side of the Simonsberg, but we're in the
are the
Kappens
vineyards
area.
quite high up?
No, in fact, they're relatively low, but I'll tell you why that's a good thing. You see, the thing is, what we find in this little microclimate in the Kappens area is, it's cold in the morning, and then in the afternoons, in the summer months, we get these cooling breezes coming off from the coast all the way through to us. And usually it happens in the afternoon. So what I'm trying to say is there's a lovely even ripening throughout the summer months. And, like all good things, when I always love relating to food and wine and what have you, cook something nice and slowly over a long period of time, it just tastes amazing.
I know, low and slow is always nice, hey?
Oh, it is, it must fall off the bone, and it's rich, it's tasty, it's like everything you ever wanted. And that's how that's how our red wine grapes, that's how they are
How
produced.
they ripen.
Yeah,
Well, I always think of Malbec, and I think of dense, deep, dark purple.
100%,
It looks like it's been beaten up by somebody. It's black and blue, and it's gorgeous, and it gives the color and intensity to a lot of those Bordeaux blends. And it's very dark and silky and smoky. It's a bit like a, I don't know, like an old. What should we say? I mean, you're not allowed to say anything anymore, but in the olden days I would have said it's sort of like a prostitute. It's like a prostitute or maybe a pimp, I don't know. It's sultry and it's sexy and it's smooth and it's, it's a bit sort of, it's got like a dark side to it, I think, Malbec.
Well, in talking in the dark ages, it was the wine of kings and queens, and so it's got a history of sort of.
No, there's something decidedly sort of sultry and sexy and dark about Malbec, which is probably why we like it. I mean, I can imagine drinking Malbec in Havana or something and smoking cigars and talking to some gorgeous, swarthy, dark man. Do you know what I mean? That's what Malbec is.
Now, to go back to your point, the thing is, not everybody...
Try and get me off this track.
No, I'm trying to follow it up to say, not everybody makes Malbec that way,
No, no, they don't. There's some distinct styles.
I think we do, Kerry.
You Hoopers do that. It's probably why the Golden Girls fell in love with it.
There's some intrigue here, and, I think there's something with regards to, when you're talking about red wine, it's got to have some intrigue. It's got to have depth, character, flavour, and but you've got to make the wine. It's got to have the full treatment. In other words, good grapes. Just to start with that point, good grapes make good wine. Like good ingredients to a dish. Just like So when we talk about sort of Mount Vernon Malbec, it's had this lovely extended time in the vineyard. Getting all these flavour and character into the grape, and then we bring it in. And so. When you're looking at a Malbec like this, and it's been matured in French oak barrels, anywhere from 18 to 24 months, so you're getting, there's no expense spared. We want to deliver the best of the best Malbecs in this country, and I think
you did.
I mean, exactly.
You just did. You absolutely did. It was gorgeous. So for me, it was one of those sultry, sexy, mysterious, smoky, rich in black and blue fruit. It's just everything that you want a Malbec to be. But as you quite rightly say, it's not necessarily the norm. There are about 3 or 4 different styles of Malbec that we picked up anyway. And that's why I think that, it's a question that not a question, it's a subject that we all in the wine industry debate endlessly about appellation control. Should there be appellation control in the Cape? And of course there should be. But I think it's happening organically. It's happening by itself. Because you clearly have just found a space that is really a good Malbec growing space. Because you make the best, you really did make the best Malbec in the country this year.
Thanks, Kerry.
So anybody who wants to go out, I'm trying to remember what vintage it was. Was it a 2020?
No, it was a 21.
Was it a 21?
So, Yeah, I mean, the 2020 is what we're currently selling at the moment, but the 21 will be sort of, well, if people want to place orders, if people would like it, we're happy to send it out to them, you know, but let me take down their details, and as soon as it's ready, you know, in other words, we put the label on, then we'll send it to them straight away.
Have you not even put the label on yet? That's not good.
No, we haven't. I mean, it's.
Well, you better send me a bucket of it for Christmas, I think. Can we buy it by the bucket?
Oh, you can, absolutely. You know, it's there'll be a treat for that, you know, 100%. A wine with that, with sort of, you know, looking at licorice, like I said, black currant, ripe plum, you know, all those lovely flavors, a bit of hint, a bit of dark chocolate. It's got everything, you know. So
and it's also got for quite a young wine. I mean, it's got Malbec has very robust tannins as a general rule, but they're such lovely, soft, ripe tannins that they don't. You know, I've got a terrible inherent fear of smiling with those sort of red teeth that people get when they work in the liquor trade. I'm so terrified of being that. I'm like hectic while I taste wine. I brush my teeth 1,000,000 times during the tasting. I can't stand the look of a woman with black teeth. It's just ghastly. But Malbec is not your best friend when you're tasting, because it really is dark. But it's dark, but the tannins were soft and smooth and ripe and delicious, and they didn't make our teeth black because we drank the rest of the bottle over lunch.
Great.
It's really lovely. Congratulations. Who actually made that wine, John? Why are you giggling?
Yeah, look, Philip du Toit has been our viticulturalist for a good part of 25 years. And, we've had after my mother, she sort of stepped down as the primary winemaker and moved into a cellar master role. And in that time, we had a couple of other winemakers that didn't sort of quite cut the cheese. And sort of Philip then picked up the reins, and, you know, he understands the vines well, but, you know, he also understands winemaking well, and, you know, has then sort of fitted into that role. So Philip made the 21 vintage, which has really been a master class, you know. The great thing about good wines like that is just that the fruit and the wood are well integrated, and it just delivers an exceptionally rich, you know, smooth, but, you know...
You can almost eat a bottle of that Malbec for dinner. You don't even need any food. You know, everybody always says, what would you eat with it? Another bottle of Malbec, I think. That's what I would eat with it. Just have both. Have 2 bottles for dinner. It's delicious. It really, really, really is nice. On that note, what would you eat with it if I asked you?
You know, it's very much a wine I've found over the years to go well with, you know, things like slightly wilder than beef, you know. So, I mean, I know that the Malbec beef scenario has always been played out, but this particular one works well with more so towards sort of lamb, duck. I even enjoy venison with it as well, you know. And you know, it's got that slightly sort of wilder element that Cabernet doesn't have, and that's why the sort of the gaminess or that extra sort of, you know, flavor that you get in something like, you know, duck or lamb really sort of brings out the match well, you know. And,
yes, or maybe an ostrich. I don't do ostrich. I've got a thing about ostrich. I can remember when my English granny had tiny, skinny little legs. As all those, well, not all. In fact, a lot of English people have fat ankles, but my granny had skinny little ankles. And when she got really, really old, they went purple. I don't know why. Granny's ankles go purple. I think it's bad blood circulation. And it looks like an ostrich. Ostrich meat is purple. Have you ever seen it?
Yeah, of course I have. Yeah.
It's purple,
I mean,
John. So it's like roasting Granny's ankles. You don't want to have Gran's ankles for Sunday lunch. I'm just saying. You know what I mean?
That sounds too good to be true. Yeah.
Sounds a bit sort of cavemanish, yes, I know.
Yeah, no, well...
but I get it. Venison, guinea fowl, ostrich, anything, rabbit maybe, anything wildish.
Yeah, and I think, it definitely has its place there. Again, lend itself towards, some, a lovely sort of roast or something along those lines. But it's a wine that does sort of, it's a good food wine, and as much as actually this 21, as you said, was delicious on its own, because when I heard that we'd won the award or the prize, I immediately ran into the warehouse and pinched the bottle out there and had a bottle straight away just to double check. And
how delicious, isn't it?
Well, gee, I flattened it straight away. So before I'd even left the office, so it was lovely. So yeah, I think, but it's a lovely food wine, and yeah, definitely. And I think, it's very much an experience. I always aim for, when sort of delivering, especially the Mount Vernons, I want people to enjoy the brand and enjoy the experience with it, and so the food and wine combo is always, if you think about it, a great conversation with friends, a beautiful
I was going to say, it's the Holy Trinity, really, isn't it? It's food and people and wine. That's my Holy Trinity. It's a wonderful Holy Trinity, and it works a treat. So now, how much are we paying in the trade for that? I haven't had a look, actually. How much do we pay? For about 300 Rand a bottle, I think.
Yeah, no, it is.
Which is so reasonable for an award-winning wine like that.
I know, hey? Do you think it's a bit too cheap? What do you think?
Let's put the price up.
Well, look, there are only a couple of hundred cases available, so...
well, leave it at 300 until you get to 100 cases, and then put it up to 550.
Yes, no, that's a good idea, Harry.
From a retailer.
So definitely some...
and then you can fight with Celia when he doesn't want to pay the increased price.
Man, yeah, that's going to be a tough battle.
Leave it at 300.
Well, I'll tell you what, I might have to call you, Harry, maybe just to help me out there. Because I know he doesn't take any SH1T from you.
No. Nobody fights, nobody boxes with Kramer. Ever. John, give your parents my very, very best and tell them congratulations on that wine, and to you. But I'm not going to let you go yet, because I need to remind everybody that you have another little highway to fame of your own. I can remember years ago, you came to see me at the shop. Yes. And you were sort of so shy, and you came wheedling in there, and you said to me, no, you've got this wine that you wanted to show me. And it was unbelievable red and white. Do you remember? So
yes,
for anybody who's watching this and they don't know who John Hooper Jr. is, John Hooper Jr. is the daddy of unbelievable red and white. And it's just an unlabeled bottle. It's got like a long, skinny strip down the thing that says unbelievable, I think. Doesn't it?
That's right. Uncertified, unlabeled, unbelievable.
Unbelievable value for money. Unbelievable. And I introduced that to a whole load of my customers and my friends. And I honestly think, how long ago was that, John? But we must have sold pallet loads of that stuff.
15 years. It's,
must be, hey?
Yeah, look.
And the product is still being sold. My family now live down in the Midlands of Natal. And I can tell you that Howick is definitely the retirement village of South Africa.
Yes, correct.
And I think that unbelievable red and white is most definitely the wine of choice in Howick. I think that if you withdrew that product from Pick and Pay or Spar or whatever, Howick would have to be declared insolvent.
It's the staple diet.
It systematically props up the economy of Howick.
Yeah. Look, no doubt. I mean, and I'm very grateful for those people. They are loyal, and
yes.
I am extremely grateful for the support there. And that brand.
That's amazing.
Look, let's face it. It's sort of, we offer something, especially in this day and age. It's tough times out there for all of us.
I know.
And
Shame, I know the Hoopers must be battling up a storm at the moment, from what I can gather. It's biggest private liquor distribution company in the country. It must be tough, John.
Look, I'm on my own, hey, Carrie. I'm in the wine business. And as much as I love Edward Snell and Company, and it's a great sort of family asset. Gravel Junction is my business, and I do the wine side of things, and locally and internationally. And it's been a great journey. Unbelievable has been my sort of staple diet, and been my bread and butter, really, I should say. And it does give us all, that's regular South Africans, a good wine at a good price in a very unique, unlabeled bottle. And so, yes, I think it definitely ticks the box in that regard. And
it's an amazing brand.
Yeah, I think it's just something else out there. You
know what? You know why I like it? Because we all dream of leaving a legacy of sorts, and hope that our children will maybe be impressed enough with us to follow us somewhere down this lane that we've, walked.
Yeah.
And having said that, it must be very difficult as a you to try and make a difference in an incredibly successful family. How do you set yourself apart and say, well, great-great-great-grandpa did this and great-great-grandpa did that and Dad did this and I'm going to do what? You've done a really, really good job of it. Gravel Junction is a success story, and it brings wine to the people. Anybody can have a bottle of wine if they go and buy something from Gravel Junction.
Yeah, thanks, Carrie. You're right. Your point is 100%. It's there's always some big shoes to follow there, and
huge.
But wine.
And you're nice. You've got to be nice and successful and clever.
Oh, Carrie,
tall order.
You're making me blush, I tell you.
You are blushing. I don't want to say too much, but you are on camera and you are blushing, and it's very sweet.
We're just trying our best to get through this busy, these tough times. And, in saying that, look, it has, the wine business has definitely been a challenge, that's for sure. And
yeah, it is.
There is opportunity in it, I must admit, but one does need to have different brands at different sort of levels, and some brands are sort of the price fighters. They deliver like I said, the bread and butter. And then we have brands like Mount Vernon that are investment brands for us. Long term, they have, I think, great possibilities, and obviously appeal to a different market. And so too, we've actually embarked on the spritz market as well, Carrie, which has been fascinating. We recently, I say recently, 5-6 years ago, which is pretty short term in the life of a brand. We developed a brand called Endearing, which is a aperitif spritz, and again, it's the spritz market in South Africa is really just taking off globally.
I think it has the potential to be quite big because of our climate.
100%. It's refreshing, it's tasty, it looks sexy.
What are you making it out of?
Yeah, we use a white wine base. So white wine base, we import a number of ingredients to make up the final recipe, and then we carbonate it in lines, so it's got a sparkling element to it.
And how are we serving it, in a tin or in a bottle?
In both, in fact. So it comes in a 750ml bottle under the name of Andiamo, and then it comes in a 250ml can as well. But
you must send me some. I don't know why I don't know about that.
Yeah, look, it's very much, it's the drink of summer, and and we've had great acceptance both locally and internationally, and
fantastic.
The reason I just highlight it is because I think the wine industry is, it's a tough place. There's lots of competition, but there's opportunity out there, and so I remain quite positive. Sort of buoyant about the space, and and I think South African wine in general is it's definitely sort of making its mark internationally, and
no, it's definitely definitely becoming very, very sexy internationally, South African wine.
Yeah, I think so. You know,
It used to be sexy because it was cheap and it was sold in bulk, and, you know, people would buy it and they would blend it in with something else. It's taken a long time for you boys to establish yourselves as proper players and proper contributors on an international scale.
You know, Terry, you make such a relevant point there, and that, you know, after Nelson Mandela, you know, South Africa sort of lost a little bit of its sort of sting as well, you know, and
Yes.
and you know, if you think about it, I mean, it's a place at the end of Africa, and it's got so much going for it, you know. It's got and from a marketability perspective, you know, besides the, you know, just...
At the moment, we're all in the dark, so we would do a whole lot better if we could be operating in the light. That would help.
Oh,
But
man.
we're still,
Isn't
we're
that
still
the
just
truth?
a little place down on the sort of arse end of the world, quite frankly. And we
Yeah.
were a trading port, and we're still a trading station. And your family know that better than most. And we still are. So we can still do agreements with the Middle East and Brazil and China and what have you, because we slap bang in the middle at the bottom and all the ships have to go past us. It's nice.
Absolutely.
So we will always be relevant, always.
Yeah, I think there's a marketing man's dream in that, you know, and I think, look, South Africa definitely needs to sort of get its way out of this sort of like cheap and cheerful sort of zone into, you know, the serious wine country that it could be, you know. And
I think we are, though, don't you?
Well, we've got a long way to go to make sure that the farmer gets his due, you know. I'll give you an example.
100%.
I mean, New Zealand have come up on the scene 50 years ago. They're on every wine list around the world, and they're selling their wine at, call it 50 Rand a litre, where we're at...
Because their government gave them some help.
Yeah, and they positioned themselves well, and they picked up on the Sauvignon Blancs and the Chardonnays, and they did a damn good job, you know.
Yeah, they
and,
focused. That
They
was
did,
all about
exactly.
laser focus, yeah.
you know, and they pitched themselves well, and, you know, the fact of the matter is that, you know, it takes time to try and change people's minds, but, you know, I feel that South African wine can do that well, and I think that because they do have a story to tell, they also got good quality wines, and we should be getting not... call it 15 or 20 Rand a litre, which would bring a lot more, and the South African wine farmer could actually eventually sort of like survive, because he's literally out there on the bones of his bum, you know. And
it looks like, to the whole world, it looks like wine farming is
paradise.
brilliant. The life of the privileged few. We know better than that, don't we?
No,
John, if I was to ask you, what's your death row meal
Ooh, that's always a
and
good
drink?
question, eh?
What's your death row meal and drink?
Death row meal and drink. Gee, that is a very good question. Carrie, you know, I've always been a big fan of
The first thing that comes to mind, don't start trying to get
roasted.
fancy. The first thing that comes to mind is what it would be.
No, definitely. I mean, I definitely lean towards an oxtail. You know, I've always enjoyed that. You know, my mum used to make this amazing oxtail as a boy, and you know,
It's
whenever
also one of my
I
favourites.
go fly fishing every year up in Drakensberg, my old buds, and so you know, that is a slow roast oxtail, I suppose, and I'll definitely wash it back with
The bottle of
something like
Malbec.
Mount Vernon Malbec. Because,
Yeah, I
you know,
must admit, I could go for that. I could go for that. And if you're not doing business and overseeing the making of wine and getting rich and being famous, what do you do other than that?
You know, Carrie,
You don't have to tell all if you don't want to. You can tell me fibs here if you want.
No, look. I mean,
Make up a fantastic life that's not real.
Look, I tell you what, I do love getting out there and doing a bit of exercise, but you know, if I had to really sort of pick it out, you know, I do love a couple of days in the bush, you know, and
Oh, do you?
so, you know, nothing excites me more than sort of, I think the two most beautiful places in South Africa are here in the Cape and down in the Lowveld, you know, and a trip up there is always a highlight of every sort of year or every sort of holiday. And yeah, we do. I do quite a bit of work in the Kruger Park as well. You know.
Do you?
Yeah, we one of our brands is we called Rhino Tears, and we've donated.
Oh,
over
are
3
you
million
Rhino
rand.
Tears?
Yeah. It's been
That
so
was
it's
clever.
a way of sort of taking a childhood passion of just loving the bush and combining it with work and the two give me obviously a huge amount of pleasure. But the bush for me is a place where one can sort of switch off, get away from that cell phone and that email, and just sort of lose yourself for a few days and go for a walk. So I love that. Yeah. So.
I think it's one of the things that all of us in South Africa would miss the most if we weren't here anymore. That bush for me is unbelievable. I love bird photography, so I can go and lose myself in the bush for weeks on end, and climb over an elephant on the way to a chin spot batis, But the bush is gorgeous. I absolutely love it too. It's very, very hot at the moment. I was there in February this year last, and it was so hot and so dry. We need water. We need all kinds of things. Do you know what, John? You are just gorgeous. Your mother and father must be so proud of you. I'm proud of you. I love the fact that we've got new generation people in the industry like you who take it seriously, but have fun while you do it as well.
You got to have fun,
I think it's brilliant that Mount Vernon won that challenge for a second time. It just endorses the fact that it is indeed one of the top Malbecs in the country. And because today is sort of, as I say, I think it's my last podcast, we better say Happy Christmas to everybody. Callum, we didn't even have a glass of wine here in the studio to say Happy Christmas. Someone say Happy Christmas with water, John.
Cheers, Carrie, and thank you. I mean, thank you for hosting me or inviting me onto the show. It's and lovely to see you again. I mean, I know,
and you. Now, you're going to come and visit me next year in Johannesburg, I hope.
Oh, we miss you out here. I tell you,
I know. I'm going to come and visit you. Oh, yeah. And when you come up to Johannesburg, you come and see me. We 100%. Can't only meet via Riverside in a studio.
That'd be lovely. Wow.
Thank you so much, John. Lots of love and happy
Gary.
Christmas. Thank you.
Same to you. All the best. Thank you.
Cheers. Bye-bye.
Another production from Solid Gold Podcasts.